The Apple Vision Pro is the most high-tech and most capable wearable computer of its kind right now. There's no doubt about that. But it's not all sunshine and roses. There are some serious concerns that arise with this gadget being available for the masses eventually. Don't get me wrong though, from a technological perspective, this thing is seriously impressive. And looking at how much hype is around this thing, you probably already know about all the crazy things it's capable of doing, like the way you control it with just hand motions and gestures or just your voice, and all the crazy eye tracking it can do, which surprisingly seems to work the way it's advertised based on what many people seem to be saying that got a chance to actually use this thing.
The most impressive thing about this headset, the most impressive thing, is the eye tracking. I'm not even kidding. This eye tracking is sick.
But when you start to look past all the hype, you start to question things like privacy. What about that? Because this thing has a combination of 39 cameras, LEDs, IR illuminators, and whatnot dedicated to monitoring literally every single movement you make with your hands, your fingers, your eyes, and even your head. The 4 IR cameras with the help of 22 LEDs can track even the smallest movement of your eyes with extreme precision. And so can the 6 cameras and 2 IR illuminators on the outside track your hand and finger movements accurately. And Apple themselves mentioned in their keynote that your eyes can give away a lot about what you're thinking.
For example, where you look is very personal. It can give away something about what you're thinking.
And even that the Apple Vision Pro stores your iris pattern, which is like your fingerprint. It's unique for everyone. And then they went on to talk about how they will not let any websites or apps see this information. But I mean, that information is still stored and processed somewhere, and regardless of how many times Apple says that this information is encrypted and stored on your device and whatnot, I refuse to believe that Apple does not have some kind of backdoor access to this information. I just don't get it. I mean, they got to have a master key, right? Plus, is Apple really not going to use any of that information to see how they can improve their products? I don't know, but I would love to be proven wrong. But besides that, wherever this information is stored, it can potentially be accessed by someone other than Apple if your account was to ever get hacked. In fact, every 39 seconds, a new cyber attack takes place somewhere on the internet. So this stuff is very common. But to be clear, I trust Apple the most out of most tech companies, especially Google and Meta. But I still don't fully trust Apple, if you know what I mean. Now, there's also the other side of privacy. Like maybe this thing is a little too private. Imagine kids using this thing. You wouldn't know what they're watching on it. With the phone, at least other people can see the screen, so you know what they're watching. But with this, there's no way. So you can imagine this would open doors to some not so good things for kids especially. Now, unlike the Apple Vision Pro, Squarespace opens doors to some professional and beautiful looking websites thanks to a bunch of award-winning templates they've got to choose from to get your site up and running in literally hours. You can customize everything however you'd like, and it looks good on every device. You can also set up an online store with flexible payment options to make checkout seamless for your customers, or even have a membership that people can sign up for. And everything is really easy to use and understand, even for someone using it for the first time. But if you do get stuck, they have 24/7 customer service, so you can always ask for help. It's easily one of the best and one of the most well-known all-in-one website building platforms out there. So if you want to get started, visit squarespace.com/Spixel and get 10% off your first purchase. And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Okay, so we talked about privacy, but what about the effect this thing will have on your eyes, your sleep, your mental health, and even your physical health? Well, all of those will be impacted negatively. For example, sleep, because yes, it is true, screens produce blue light, which suppresses the production of melatonin in your body, and that can really mess up your sleep cycle. But I believe some studies suggest that the amount of blue light produced from screens is not enough to impact your sleep. But even then, most of us know that if you use your phone at night, you can spend hours before you realize that you're supposed to go to sleep. And that's probably because it keeps your brain busy and engaged. And that's with phones. It happens right now. The Apple Vision Pro will only make it worse because I can imagine you'll be able to use this thing while laying in bed, which is something we try to avoid with phones because there's the risk of it dropping on your face, which is something no one likes. So with extensive use of this thing, your sleep is going to be messed up and your screen time is only going to go up, potentially wrecking your eyes as well, because you see, our eyes have 2 types of movements. One's called divergence, which is for looking at objects that are far away from you. And the other is called convergence, which is for looking at things that are close to you. But because the Apple Vision Pro has a screen inside that you're always looking at and it stays in the same spot, I can imagine your eyes won't have to change the focal plane because it's always the same distance from your eyes. And this can potentially slow down your ability to focus from objects that are far away from you to objects that are close to you and vice versa. But it gets even worse than that, because did you know when we look at a screen, we tend to blink fewer times, about 20 to 30% less, which may not sound like a lot, but it's enough to cause redness, dryness, pain, irritation, blurry vision, and even permanently damaged oil glands inside your eyelids, which is what's responsible for keeping your eyes moist when you blink. Blink a few times right now, because this stuff can also happen with phones. It's just worse with the Apple Vision Pro or something similar to this, because you're constantly looking at a screen. Now, this headset will also just make you way lazier than you already are. And that's because the whole idea of the Apple Vision Pro is that it just makes things easier for you. Like, oh, you want to work on your MacBook? Okay, just look at it and boom, there it is. Now you can just use your fingers and hand motions to control it. Cool. All of that sounds great. I didn't have to move from my spot. But you see, in the bigger picture, I feel like if you get used to it, doing simple things like even getting up to turn on the lights, or I don't know, getting up to get water for yourself would feel like a lot. And generally speaking, this will lead to a poor physical health. And because your screen time will most likely increase, you're likely to experience all sorts of mental health problems, like everything from depression and anxiety and self-image issues and whatnot, which again are things that happen with technology we have today. But I can imagine the Apple Vision Pro will only make things worse. So although right now the Apple Vision Pro seems like a cool product, and to a certain extent it is, it will certainly bring some new issues or amplify problems we already have today. But that's all for this video. If you liked my Apple Vision Pro headset, consider subscribing, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you later.